Happy Sabbath. Happy Sabbath once again. So 2 weeks ago, we had a presentation about water hydrating our lives. And we got some questions that I'd like us to spend a few minutes to answer. And so here we go. My name is Joshua. I'm a registered nurse by profession. I also have a passion for health and wellness coaching, where I help people practice, or rather make miraculous self-care decisions. And as I said, we can get so busy about life and forget about ourselves. That's for sure. And among the things that we need to address is how much water we drink. Are there adverse effects if you drink more water? And that's a few among the few questions that we got over the course of time. So, are you ready? The first question that we got was, are there specific medical conditions, e.g. diabetes, high blood pressure, that can alter an individual's hydration needs? Yes, there are. Let's try to answer over there. Things, you see, when we drink water, we need our kidneys to do the filtration and to be able to let the waste get out. If you have a medical challenge that affects your kidneys, then you will be forced to have what we call fluid restriction, not just water, but fluid in its entirety. Things like chronic kidney disease, heart failure, whereby the heart gets trouble or doesn't have enough power to pump blood. If you take too much water, what happens? It will cause like fluid overload. Things like liver disease, there are some types in liver disease that require fluid restrictions. So yes, but as I answer this, I want to say from my experience, the problem we have is not even drinking too much water, is drinking less of it. But having said that, it is true that yes, there's some conditions that require us to restrict how much we're drinking. Next question. Yeah, that's kind of related. But on this one, I answered it based on the sodium levels. You can drink too much water to a point that you dilute your sodium levels. Sodium and potassium at the cellular level help to balance how much water goes into the cell and how much water stays out. There needs to be a balance. So the key here is not to drink excessive water in a short period of time. For example, for those guys who are in marathon or who run or do some exercises that require that after you're done, you sit down and drink a lot of water at the same time, it puts you at risk of causing sodium imbalance. All right. The next question is spring water healthier for you compared to distilled and purified water? So I felt that this is an interesting question. But it depends on your specific needs. Spring water, for example, has natural minerals. It has good taste. But now the catch is, it depends on the filtration process, because it's more natural, but it needs to be filtered because it can come with other bacteria as well. And then the other one, distilled water is really good in purifying the water. The only challenge is it takes everything out. It takes the good things and the bad things as well. So it lacks the minerals because of the distillation process, whereby they boil the water, they have to condense it, so they remove all the minerals and all the bacteria and all the hard metals, things like lead and mercury. So the challenge is for it has no taste and it misses the actual minerals. But it is good for certain medical conditions. And the other one, that the question was addressing was purified water. This is what we get when we buy water from like Walmart or H-E-B in those bottled. It is pretty safe, it's good, and it has the opportunity to get what we call adding minerals after they've done the purification. Remineralized, that's the word. So it is a good choice, especially if contamination is a concern. So be it be purified, spring, or distilled water, it depends what your actual needs or what your body needs. Next question. Does timing of hydration before, during, or after exercise matter for performance? I felt this was an interesting question, but I want to say that we have to learn to listen to our body. The challenge with this, or thinking that there's a best time to drink water based on your exercise, is you run a risk of drinking too much water at a certain specific time. And what we are saying is, let us learn to get hydrated the entire time, the entire period. We are not sitting at one point to drink too much water at one sitting. No. We are drinking water as we live. As soon as you wake up, drink water, keep sipping water as you work, as you do your activities the entire day, be hydrated. Before you go for your exercises, during exercise, after exercise, just stay hydrated to avoid running the risk of drinking too much at a certain specific time. The next question was, is tap water unhealthy for you considering the various additives? So for this one, it's not really entirely, it depends on a few other factors. It depends basically on the treatment process, the location, and infrastructure. And I want to say that the community we live in, we don't have this challenge as such as compared to other places, because the infrastructure is up to par, there are some set standards. But you can't be entirely sure. You have to get your water to be tested for you to be sure, is my tap water safe? But from my experience, we don't get patients suffering from dysentery or amoeba. There's some specific conditions that are not in this community where we live. Back home, we have such conditions, such diseases, because of the safety, because of the infrastructure, because of where those water treatment plants are. But over here, I think they have put some standards to a certain level. So tap water is, I want to say, it's fairly good. But if you are concerned, then you may need to have those specialists come and test your water. And that's what we're explaining up there. So how do electrolytes like sodium and potassium play a role? Now, this is a biological question. It can go on and on. But there's something called sodium-potassium pump. It's interesting how we were created. God is a marvelous creator. That on the cellular level, there is a pump that determines when water should move into the cell and when it should be moving out. And the cell is made in such a way that even if water is moving to the cell, it should not get to a point that it bursts or it shrinks that it cannot work. So this sodium-potassium pump helps to be able to determine so that the cell can be stabilized. So those were the questions that we got over the last 2 weeks. And I want to say that I felt they were pretty good questions, but this is my challenge to you, that knowledge is power, but action flips the switch. We know these things. If we don't know, we can always find out. We can always Google. We can always use ChatGPT. We don't lack information. That's not the problem of our modern society. We have information all over the place. The challenge is putting it into action. And so that's why I always say that self-care is a full-time job. You can't postpone this one, and you cannot delegate it. You can teach it, though, and how we live impacts even how we raise our kids. We can influence our colleagues at work. We can influence our relatives and families. So may God help us so that as we live on a daily basis, what we eat, what we have to be conscious of what we are eating, what we are drinking, how much of it, because nobody else is going to come and help us go through this. May God help you, may God help me, and may you have a lovely day today on the Sabbath. Thank you very much.